How often do you press the pause button in your life? As I talked about in a recent episode, I've had to go through this recently due to some really tough medical issues that were going on with my family. This pause allowed me time to reflect and then focus on what was important in my life and my family's life, and has really given me a roadmap of where I want to follow and where I want to go. And apparently, that was the right thing to do. I discussed this with my next guest, who is a UCSF board-certified pediatrician with over 17 years dealing with physician wellness. And she now works and coaches with women physicians, helping them to pause their life and showing them the power of intention, allowing them to find more ease and contentment in their own life and career. If you've been struggling through these issues like myself, I really think you're going to get some answers after listening to my interview with Dr. Jessie Mahoney on this episode of Bootstrap MD.
As a doctor, I wasn't used to asking for help, especially when it came to subjects outside of medicine. But then, I found physiciancoaches.com. In an instant, I found hundreds of experts to help me in all aspects of life. On areas I was afraid to ask. Dealing with burnout, starting a side gig, money management, even help with my marriage. And the best part? Nearly all experts are physicians themselves. After reading their profile and a quick chat, I knew I found the right mentor for me. At physiciancoaches.com, help from professional colleagues is just a click away.
Hey guys, this is Dr. Mike Wu Ming. Welcome to another edition of Bootstrap MD. We're in a series where we have been spotlighting some incredible coaches out there, and I certainly have one on this upcoming interview. We're going to be talking with a pediatrician and turned physician wellness leader. And she worked at Kaiser Permanente for 17 years, a graduate of Dartmouth, went to UCSF, UC San Francisco, as well as became a graduate of the Life Coach School. And now she is involved in speaking about physician wellness, but she does much more than that. She writes a popular blog called Pause and Presence for A Life Better Lived. She's a co-host of the Mindful Healers podcast. She's a leader in the Mindful Healthcare Collective and also a certified yoga instructor. I think I know maybe two other physicians who are certified yoga instructors, so I'd love to delve into this. She teaches the Mindful Yoga for Healers, as well as hosts retreats and conferences around the world. I want to welcome to the program Dr. Jessie Mahoney. Jessie, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
I love you're from the Bay Area. That's kind of where I grew up. We talked about a little bit about that. There's a lot of yoga instructors in the Bay Area, as for what we know. But I want to talk about not only about your coaching practice, but maybe how that all led into it. We have a lot of listeners on the call. They're mostly physicians. They may be wanting to start their own coaching program. And we have some physicians who are looking for coaches. So maybe you could talk about your story and how this all happened.
Happy to. So as we were talking earlier, I worked at Kaiser for 17 plus years. And I was not only a pediatrician, but did a lot of physician leadership in terms of running the department and a lot of work in physician wellness. And physician wellness was really my passion. But I also found myself unwell, as many physicians do, about 6-ish years ago. And I had done all the things that we sort of are supposed to do. So I went to an Ivy League college, I did my med school, I did all the leadership roles, and I was still looking for the thing that was going to keep me satisfied, engaged, and passionate.
Before you go, maybe we can define what exactly physician wellness is for our listeners.
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. And I would offer that physician wellness looks like anything, but being a physician is really difficult. And so it's being able to practice medicine sustainably and I would say enjoyably. So there's a lot of conversation about finding joy and meaning in medicine, but to be able to enjoy your career. And one of the things that for me, the lowest bar is to have your physician career not cause harm. And I actually work with a lot of physicians who experience harm because of their career, knowingly or unknowingly. We often do a lot of harm to ourselves, not sleeping, not eating, perfectionism, all of those things can cause us harm. And perhaps I work with many people who hardly breathe during the day and hardly use the restroom. And so the lowest bar is to not do harm to yourself and acknowledge your own humanity. And I think that, we show so much compassion for our patients and we're trained to do that. But along the way, we're not trained to show compassion for ourselves. So to me, physician wellness is to have your physicianhood be an add to your life and an integral part of your life. I don't espouse this concept of like work-life balance. I think it's work-life integration. They all have to work together. And so being a physician is a healthy part of your life. I think it has a bit of a bad rap, if you want my honest opinion, because people think, they just want me to do yoga and then everything will be fine. Or they just want me to breathe and meditate. Mindfulness will fix everything. And I don't believe that that's true. I think that the system 100% needs fixing. But why I really got into coaching and mindfulness and wellness is that we do have to become whole and healthy healers ourselves so that we can actually start to fix the system. And when we're coming from a place of burnout and exhaustion and being victims of a broken system, we can't really find the solutions. And the solutions need to come with us, from within us, not from above us or outside of us. And so why I see wellness as so important is that if we can be well enough ourselves, we are brilliant, smart, determined, motivated, creative, innovative people, we will be able to bring the solutions forward that are really going to work.
Remember when you could practice medicine on your own terms? What if you could take control of your physician career, make more money while working smarter, not harder? Pick up your copy of The Positioned Physician. Earn more, work smart, and love medicine again. Now updated for 2021, The Positioned Physician details one doctor's journey from burnt-out employee to successful entrepreneur. Whether you are in residency, in mid-career, or close to retirement, after reading The Positioned Physician, you'll gain the knowledge that can strategically impact your doctor life. The Positioned Physician, now available on Amazon Kindle and paperback.
I'm curious, and going back to your Kaiser days, you worked in physician wellness, and I know a lot of Kaiser doctors. I know a lot of doctors who work in big institutions. And did you work with doctors one-on-one? And if so, how do they come to meet you? Because I've seen where it's actually made mandatory for some physicians, if you get what I'm talking about, versus they've gone out and said, I need help, and they seek you out.
Well, so Kaiser has physician wellness programming, and it's actually by the 2020, it was a strategic imperative to take care of physicians. And so I started at the very beginning in 2002 with when physician wellness, we were in a back closet, and it was all the people that spoke
No
up
one was talking about this.
Said like, we got to fix this. This isn't working. And I actually, Kaiser's quite forward thinking. And so even though we were in the back closet, we were still allowed to meet. We still had a regional team, and we worked from there. So each medical center had a physician wellness team, essentially made up of a number of physicians. So I led the team at all the medical centers I worked at. I would go from one to the other because this was sort of my passion. And then we actually developed a regional team that coordinated it over all the med centers. It was not directed as one-on-one physician wellness. So we would come up with programming, and towards the end of my career, we actually did a lot of training for leaders on how to lead a well team and how to be a well leader so that you could lead a well team. But it was done more at the institutional level, right, as opposed to the one-on-one level. Now, as a department chief, which I also did, that's where you would get the one-on-one person who really needs help. And the idea of the wellness programming is that we would have programs that could meet those needs, and chiefs could refer people to those programs. most of the people that we would refer people to, though, were not physicians. So you had a mentor, for example, but there wasn't someone who was sort of this safe coach person who was a peer. And that's what I think is so beautiful about physician coaching, is when you have a physician who's coaching you, they really understand what it's like to take call, what thought patterns came in medical school and residency, and in an institution, also, we sort of understand the institutional culture and how that may interplay with your own personality or culture. So physician wellness would help to refer people and help people to understand what services were available, like employee assistance. And so they would have therapists who were available confidentially, or there's something called the physician well-being, which is for physicians who are in distress. That would be the mandatory referral. Right. Or, and then other options of programs like retreats and workshops and training and mindfulness, and offering, we offered physician yoga, for example. And actually that's where I began my yoga teaching career, teaching yoga to my department and teaching yoga to the physicians in my facility and running retreats for Kaiser. But so there's lots of different options. At Kaiser, or TPMG is the Permanente Medical Group, which is the physician arm of Kaiser, they do have other things, really a lot of resources. So communication consultants, where physicians who may be having trouble communicating with their patients, that's more referral based. And so there are things like that. And so the wellness arm was really looking at, what do we need to offer to physicians? The challenge is, of course, how do you do that within the pressures of medicine, right, and the access? And the funding for programs like that is growing, and like chief wellness officer positions are growing, but it's a very much a new thing. And so I would say over those 18 years, there were lots of opportunities, which for me was fantastic, because I got to try out all kinds of things and explore different things with physicians and learn what works and what doesn't work. But one of the things that I missed is I love really working one-on-one with physicians. It's a bit like being a doctor with your patients, right? And being able to really dig into the specific issues, as opposed to just coming from above and trying to work on systems issues, which I think whenever we do something for a long time, we burn out a little bit on it, and if it's not your own business, program, entrepreneurship, passion, right, and you're trying to accommodate big institutional pressures, that becomes tiring. And as someone who was involved in physician wellness early, it's really like pushing a boulder up a hill, right? It was for many years. The hill's getting shorter, and we have more help pushing it up now. But I still think, it's one of those things that is your passion, and your passion, even just like medicine, your passion can also become something that becomes very tiring, and you want to kind of pivot and adapt and do it in a different way, which is how I ended up in coaching.
So is that what led to your going out on your own? It sounds like you were getting some pushback. Perhaps you weren't challenging enough, or there were areas that you wanted to pursue?
It was pushback. So the story about how I got into coaching is that I actually worked with a coach myself. And when I hit my own burnout, who was not a physician, because there really weren't physician coaches 6 years ago, she was married to a physician. That made me feel better. Like I thought, she'll sort of understand. And that coach came from life coach school. So I did my 6 months with her. And at the same time, I went back to mindfulness and yoga and became a yoga teacher. So for me, they're totally interwoven in terms of tools that help. And by the time I finished my coaching myself, I said, I need to go learn how to do this. This is going to be something that's really going to help physicians. And so I immediately signed up and got into that training. And by the time I had become a yoga teacher and become a coach and started seeing how coaching could help, I just saw that, my passion and what made me come alive was actually doing the coaching and being able to make a difference on that level. So as a pediatrician, I work one-on-one with kids and I'm working one-on-one with the parents, but being able to work with people at a level about being a parent and being in a relationship and enjoying your career, that the ripple effects of that were so much bigger than I was able to make in my exam room one-on-one. And that's sort of how I pivoted into wanting to just do something more. I also mentioned to you, I'm a Berkeley girl and I'm like creative and innovative, wanting to build and create stuff. And so what I found is that was really at this like season of my life, that was really what I wanted to do. I'd been doing this for 20 years and I was so ready to do something else. And so it wasn't so much that I couldn't do what I wanted, but that I really wanted to be able to do it the way I wanted. And I'm someone who has a vision and likes to, play and experiment and really build things and make them better and better and better. And I do find that I'm someone who's like on the innovative edge of the curve. And when you're in a big institution, they move slowly like a giant oil tanker, even if they have the absolute best intentions. And I think that's part of what's happening in medicine, that people see the problem in wellness, but our medical system is huge and intricate. And it's like trying to, reroute a huge container ship. It's going to take time.
Now, you've had a lot of experience. I think probably of all the coaches that I've interviewed, I've never seen one with so much years of experience in this space. And still, you decided to go and spend 6 months at the life coach school, which I mean, just looking from it says, wow, what could you actually learn from that? So why did you feel that was important, and what did you learn?
I'm someone who likes to learn. So I didn't do it because I felt like I needed a certification to become a coach, but I really enjoyed the process of working with people. It's not just the model, which the life coach school is sort of famous for, but the way to be a coach is very different than being a doctor. So we're not empathetic necessarily as a coach. And so learning some of those skills. And I have to say that when I get into this school, right, I'm learning what they're offering and I'm filtering it with this mindfulness, wellness perspective and turning it into sort of my own thing. And so I used it to learn more and to see the why of things. And that's actually why I became a yoga teacher too. It made this tremendous difference to me. And I was like, I have to understand how this works and understand the theory and the background part of it. So that then I can figure out how to bring it to others in the way that I think is going to be the most impactful and helpful to them. And so it was really more for the understanding. And I actually love the tools. I think that there are a lot of really useful tools that are very different than tools that were taught in medicine. I have taken that training and really added into it the mindfulness. And for me, it's yogic philosophy, which is mindfulness, into it. And so that shifts the experience a bit. And it's less, my type of coaching is much less model focused and more intention focused and bringing in some of the tenets of mindfulness. But the structure that they teach in the life coach school and the skills that they teach, for me, were very helpful.
Now, we kind of hinted at it, but we didn't talk it specifically. You and we talked about before we got on the call, is that you actually left Kaiser, who you've been working for 18 years. And it sounds like one of the main reasons, and maybe we can get into this, is because you wanted to start your coaching program because you were not allowed to. Did you know about that when you were going in? Were you, and did it cause any resentment or problems? Or should we edit that part out?
I knew that the Kaiser system, like within the Kaiser system, the way they do their contracts, it's you are in it and that's what you do. And I don't have any resentment about it because that's the system that they have. And it's honestly a beautiful system. It just, as some people at some point want something different. Like we all need different things at different points in our life. So, for me, it's funny, right? Coaching teaches you that system is exactly what it is. So I don't have any resentment about it. Like that was the system that it was. And honestly, it probably worked in my favor because had I been able to like do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, I wouldn't have gone all in on myself and what I really wanted to do. I will say the decision-making process of leaving a place that you've worked for 20 years was not easy at all. And deciding to bet on yourself and believe that you can do something totally different that you're really excited about was not easy at all. But my growth through that, I think, is what makes me also a much better coach, having been someone who pivoted and did something new. I will say it wasn't easy, but it is just the system that it is. And people who are maybe in private practice have different pressures, and people who are in big organizations have different pressures. And I think academic places have different pressures. And I think it just helps to see that was the system. I will say that when I went to the life coach school, I wasn't sure that I was going to become, a coach and start my own business. That is not at all why I went. I went because I was really interested in learning about it. And I originally thought that this would just be something that I would incorporate into my physician wellness work that I was doing there. But what I found after doing it is that this was really my passion, and I was really ready to be doing something new. And so I think that in part, the mindfulness comes in there also, because the mindfulness really teaches you to look at who you are authentically and sort of listen to your heart as opposed to your head and the contracts and the pensions and all of the other things. And that you just sort of really see who you are authentically and what you really want. And once you've kind of seen that, it's very hard not to honor it. And that's really, we teach in the life coach school, actually, this idea about making decisions and when to leave or when to pivot. And when it's not that you're running away from something, you're moving towards something. And when you see something that you really want to move towards, it's very hard for me at least, and I think for most people, you just start to feel out of alignment.
Right. You got that attraction right there. So yeah. Are you still practicing as a physician, or are we doing this?
Yeah, I am not. And I will say that my plan originally was I resigned about a month before COVID came, and my last day at work was about 2 weeks before everything shut down. And so I was originally planning to do urgent care on the weekends because I wasn't planning to leave medicine, and perhaps do some kind of direct primary care or work with, I have a friend who has a practice, and I was going to be able to teach yoga and coach and do all of that. And COVID came, which was totally unexpected. But when that happened, I essentially just pivoted 100% into coaching. And, I came to it with so much experience in wellness, and I had been certified as a coach probably 6 or 9 months before. And so it was like I was ready to go. And so in many ways, COVID was a gift because there was just such a need that I pivoted almost instantly into coaching. And a big part of that pivot was my work in the Mindful Healthcare Collective, which I can talk about a little bit. And it's a large group that was formed right as COVID started to help physicians heal essentially and be supported during COVID. So we offer tons of free stuff there, but it also really helped just in terms of offering free coaching and offering free yoga and having people know more about me. And so in those first few months, I was really busy helping people in that way, almost weekly there. And that really helped me, I think, to grow my business beyond just doing it on my own. And again, none of that was planned out. It sort of has all happened as things have evolved. You just sort of pivot to the next step. And I do think that's part of this whole entrepreneurship journey, which is very different.
Yeah, it is. It sounds like everything kind of grew organically. So tell us about your coaching practice. Maybe you could talk about the people who reach out to you and where you feel that you could be the best help to these for these folks.
Yeah. So I usually describe it as I work with people who are successful on the surface, but struggle underneath. And so that's most doctors.
That's for all of us.
But a lot of people really resonate with that description because they do feel successful, and on the outside, they look successful, and they may have lots going on underneath, whether they're feeling inadequate as a parent or just not able to be present for their kids, or that they're frustrated with their jobs, their careers, burnout. Many people who come to me think they want to leave their job, but they don't know what they want to do. Feeling lost is a particular thing. And the other one is just feeling like they're not living their best life. They did all this work, they got to this point, and then it's like, this isn't what I wanted, or they don't necessarily want to leave medicine. And I find that many people, once they do the coaching, they decide that their current job is fine. Some people decide, oh, nope, I need to change. And some people are having so much stress at home. And that is something that I do sort of specialize in, that when they feel better at home, their jobs are more workable. And so as a pediatrician, a lot of people come to me for parent coaching. I also have 3 children who are young adults and teenagers. So it dovetails into that. And I think that the coaching work and the mindfulness, of course, being a mindful parent and a present parent is something that we all really aspire to, and how to sort of figure out how to be a parent and a physician. The other area that I do a lot of work on is marriages or loving relationships. And one of the reasons that I got into coaching is at the same time that I had some burnout, my husband had quite a high-powered job and he developed some mental health struggles. And that really that's really what pushed me into the coaching, was like all the things. So when things at home were a struggle, which was really his struggle, I just was like, this is the thing that sort of pushed me over the edge. And I find that a lot of people come to me with things like that as well. How do I handle this partner who, as physicians, we have very high expectations and we're all human. And what I learned through that process is that when I did coaching for myself and I took care of myself and I stopped trying to fix everybody everywhere, everybody else got better. And it really transformed really how I practiced pediatrics before I pivoted, because I think the way that we approach everything in life is with our same brain. So whether you're getting coaching around work and your struggles in career or your struggles at home, we bring our brain home, work, everywhere. And so a lot of these thought patterns that we learn as physicians, like looking for the negative, catastrophizing, always being quite judgmental and perfectionist and super high expectations of everyone, that doesn't necessarily serve you fantastically as a mom or a spouse. And so, I think I was a pretty good mom and spouse before, but I'm way better now, right? And so as just having learned mindfulness and coaching and bringing both of those to those roles, it's really helpful. The other thing that I like to say I coach on is getting rid of clutter. And it becomes from the mindfulness. So whether it's clutter in your house or emotional clutter, which is all that angst about maybe your parents and how they're doing things and impacting life, or your children or your spouse, or we tend to carry around a lot of clutter around our colleagues and the decisions our institutions are making. And so that is an area that a lot of people come to me for. So most people that come are just feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, lost for whatever reason. And it's something that's tipped them over. But really, once you start to dig, it's a pattern of behavior and thoughts that they've just sort of ended up in that they didn't mean to. So they've sort of been on autopilot. And the mindfulness and the coaching essentially helps you pause. So I call my coaching business Pause and Presence. And the idea is that you pause. And in that pause, the presence is sort of, you notice, you're aware, that's very much the mindfulness component. And then that's how you choose how you want to move forward. And so when we lengthen the pause with mindfulness, then the coaching can come in, because mindfulness is really just about the pause and being. The coaching piece is the intention piece. Well, then what do you want to do now? Where do you want to go now? How do you want to show up as a mom or a wife or a doctor or for your colleagues? And for you, for your career, what might be your passion? So from that point, once people are able to kind of be mindful and see what they really truly want, they can move forward in a much more meaningful, purposeful, and I think clear way. A lot of people just can't see clearly. They're just exhausted, overwhelmed, burnt out, and they don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, but I'm not happy. I do work with a few people who are starting their own businesses, or they're trying to pivot and they're just not sure what to do. And it's the same theory that when you pause and you sort of reconnect with yourself and who you really are, that's when things start to work.
I love it, the positive presence. I also love that description of that clutter that we can't see, that we have all over, and that we don't know how to clean it up. This has been tremendous. You've got some. You also do workshops and retreats. Retreats that you're doing. And tell us about about that. And I think you told me that you have one. You're already scheduling it for 2022.
Yeah. So I do coaching and yoga retreats. And the idea is that in the moment, you get both. You get your mindfulness and your pause and sort of a neurologic reset and calm and grounded being in this beautiful place. And you get the coaching at the same time. So some people will do their coaching, one-on-one coaching over 6 months, and other people will come for a week away where they're just like, I'm just going to do this now. And most people who come like, I need to do something right now. I've had it. Enough is enough. So I offer 5-day retreats, and in a place called Santa Margarita, which is in Central California, just outside San Luis Obispo, at this spectacular retreat center. And they're pretty small, so less than 10 people. And so it's very different than like a wellness conference. And so a lot of individual attention, and it's on a mountaintop, essentially. It's like a sanctuary that's in the middle of just preserved lands in beautiful California, right near the coast. And we spend those 5 days essentially really learning to be again, rather than like constantly do and be busy, and quieting your mind, becoming calm and grounded, so that then when you are working on who you want to become and where you want to go, you're able to do it from just a fully nourished place. I have a other physician who collaborates with me, Dr. Ann Kennard, who lives nearby. And she is a board certified OBGYN, but also board certified in integrative medicine, lifestyle medicine. She's also a yoga teacher and an herbalist. And so she comes and does some culinary medicine and also teaches some of the yoga with me, as well as plays her live violin. She's also a violinist. And so it's like, it's literally like gets at all the senses. Wow. And it's kind of like a reset, so that, you know, I say as physicians, our sympathetic nervous system's like going like crazy. And so we need to rev up our parasympathetic nervous system, get back in balance. Then the coaching can like help you see really clearly where you want to go, more from a place of ease rather than just, you know, sometimes when we talk about transforming, it's like you got to push yourself and take massive action and do all these things. But when you just kind of heal yourself and grow strong, all of a sudden things just start to flow. You can see where you want to go.
I love it that this, I mean, talking about pause, 5 days in this, beautiful location. I assume they need to put their cell phones away, leave those in the car.
Yes, they do work there. And I will say, because the retreats are for women in medicine, just because they're so small. And so you come without your family, but a lot of them do want to be able to make sure their children are okay. So you have it and it works. But most people don't carry it around with them, which is amazing. It really is a pause in nature. So I'm offering 2 of those in the spring, one in March and one in April. And those dates are picked because Central California has amazing wildflowers, and that's wildflower season. So you get that extra bit as well. Okay. And so people can sign up for those if they want. They're available on my website now. And because they're small, they do fill up pretty quickly. So if people are interested, they should check it out.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about where can they go to get more information about you and about all the retreats?
Yeah. So you can find all the information on my website, which is jessiemahoneymd.com. And Jessie is Jessie. So you can find me there. There's a retreat tab. There's a tab about joining me for the Mindful Yoga for Healers, which is free and open to people who want to come. I love teaching it. And we have quite a community that joins me most Saturday mornings on Zoom, because that's what we do these days. And it's been just a really fun experience. Even
if you're not very flexible, you'll still allow them.
Yes. Well, the beautiful thing about yoga on Zoom is that you're in your box, so no one sees how much you're stretching. But the point actually is that you don't need to be flexible to do yoga or stand on your head, right? This yoga for healers is really about tapping into kindness to ourselves, compassion, being able to breathe and heal and nourish yourself. And so it's actually kind of coaching yoga. That's one of the reasons that people like it. If they don't know yoga, or they're really uncomfortable, like just sitting and being, this sort of helps your mind be distracted with mindful thoughts and intentions. And that gets you moving through the yoga and able to start. A lot of people who don't do yoga actually start by doing these classes. And they've told me, I've never did yoga before and it was fine. I loved it. So I definitely encourage people to try it if they're interested.
Okay, great. We'll put a link also that in the show notes, and Mindful Yoga for Healers sounds amazing. Dr. Jessie, this has been incredible. I mean, I can see how your passion in this space and how you've been helping others, helping our colleagues get them through this tumultuous time. Any last minute thoughts before we end the interview today?
My thought is to show kindness to yourself. I see a lot of physicians who don't even realize how unkind we are to ourselves. And part of the mindfulness is to become aware of that. And we often have trouble doing self-help or self-development or showing compassion and all of this stuff. And if you can just start with treating yourself with kindness like you would treat others and listen to the things that you tell patients, they're almost always what you need to hear yourself. And then if you can start with that and start with just 5 minutes of like pausing a day, we all have 5 minutes. I know we think we don't, but we do. 5 minutes to take care of yourself in some way, whether it's literally just breathing or pushing play on some mindfulness app. It can be the start of something. Subtle is significant, I like to say. So if you stop being mean to yourself or take a pause, it's the first steps towards something better.
That was great. I love it. I love the idea about pausing. I think when we get in trouble is when we don't pause. That's where problems happen. That's where accidents happen. We don't think. Pause and presence is the name of her program. Dr. Jessie Mahoney, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you're interested in coaching and feel that you need and she resonates with you, please check out her website, jessiemahoneymd.com, and you can find out her programs, her retreats, all great stuff, as well as the Mindful Yoga for Healers. We'll have that all available to you. Whatever you do, guys, whether what Dr. Jessie is saying, what I'm saying, if you have issues that you need to get resolved and it's not helping, go out and find a coach. She has her own coaches, but whatever you do, don't just stand there and ruminate about it. Find someone and keep moving forward. Hey, Dr. Mike here. I hope you're inspired by that interview. And if you aspire to become a coach or consultant yourself, I highly encourage you to check out my free on-demand masterclass, How to Become a Highly Paid In-Demand Physician Consultant or Coach. On the masterclass, I'll not only share you my story of how I've become a physician consultant for over 15 years, I'll also share you real-life case studies of physicians who are actively doing this now, either adding or replacing their current income as a doctor. To register for the masterclass, we'll leave a link in the show notes. I look forward to sharing you this important information today.